Hello and welcome to our lessons on vectors and bearings. We'll continue our lessons. And remember, in our previous lesson, we did speak about the meaning of bearing and how to write bearings. And we said one of the ways to write bearing is what? Compass bearing. So in this lesson, we're going to focus on compass bearing. Compass bearings are based on the four main cardinal points, which are the north, the south, east, and the west. So in this lesson, you're going to see N represent the north, X represents south, E represent east, and W represent the west. So examples, we have N 60 degrees E, S 25 degrees W, and N 35 degrees west. So N 60 degrees E means it's read as north 60 degrees east. S 25 degrees W is read as south 25 degrees west. And N 35 degrees W is read as north 35 degrees west. Right, so remember on our cardinal points, if I have it this way, this is my north, I have my south, east, and west. Right, so for instance, in our previous lesson where we used the drawing to explain the meaning of bearing, you will have said, since the person is standing on the north, you should turn 70 degrees to the east. So you will say, hey, turn 70 degrees east and walk straight. You're going to get to town B, right? And note, say the angles are measured either from the north or the south. You got to pay attention here very well. You say the angles could be measured from the north or the south. So let's look at examples here. Say questions. Represent the following graphically. 1. North 70 degrees west. So I'm going to do number 1, 2, 3. Then you do the rest, which is 4 and 5. All right, so let's look at the first example. It says north 70 degrees west. I have to draw my graph to show my cardinal points. I have north. I have south here. I have east. And I have west, right? Always remember, between each quadrant, this is quadrant 1, quadrant 2, quadrant 3, quadrant 4. Between each quadrant, we have a right angle here, and each of it is 90 degrees, right? Each of the quadrant is 90 degrees. So if I go to the second quadrant, it's 90 degrees, fourth quadrant is 90 degrees, and then the third quadrant is equally 90 degrees. Right, so now when we look at the question, it's telling me, when we look at the question here, it tells us that we are to look north. Well, we are starting from north, so I'm at north, and it's telling me 70 degrees. The 70 degrees tells you how long or how much to turn. And then the west tell you where to turn to. So I'm at north and I need to turn to the west. Supposing it was E, I will have turned to the east, right? So I'm at north and I'm turning to the west 70 degrees. Remember the whole of this quadrant, is 90 degrees. But then this time I'm looking at 70 degrees, and that should be half of it is going to be what? Half of it is going to be 45 degrees, but I'm looking at 70. So 70 should be at least more than half of it, right? Because half of it is 45 and I want 70. So I'm going to turn from here about more than half, and I know this is going to be 70, right? And I just draw my line and show the arrow, and here it tells you that this particular angle I've drawn is my 70 degrees. So I have north 70 degrees west, right? I hope that's clear. Now let's move on to the next example. I have south 25 degrees west. So I have to draw my cardinal points, right? I have my north, I have south, east, and I have west, right? And I'm supposed to look at south. So my starting point is south. and it says 25 degrees to the west. I'm not going to the east, but to the west. The whole of that quadrant, the whole of this quadrant is equally 90 degrees. And I want half of it, right? Half of it is going to be 45. Still, I'm not getting 25. So I need to rather look at very, very small part of it. I'm estimating that, okay, from this part to this is going to be 25 degrees. So I draw it and show my arrow. So it tells me that this particular angle is 25 degrees, and I'm done. So let's look at number 2. Right, it tells me that north 50 degrees west. Right, so let me draw my Cartesian plane. I have my north, south, east, and then I got my west. And I'm moving from north to west, but 10 and 50 degrees. And I know 50 degrees is going to be more than half of it, since half is 45. So I move, okay, this is more than half. I estimate and say, okay. And then I show with my arrow. So this is going to be my 50 degrees, right? And remember, number 3 and 4 is for you guys to try, right? So go ahead and try this. Thank you so much for taking your time to watch this. See you in the next lesson. In the next lesson, we're going to be talking about the 3-point bearing.